inflation has driven up your costs that much, that fast. I mean, we typically use the historic inflation, average inflation, which is about 3.2. So when we're over that 3.2, then that means, they're going to be, the numbers are going to be going backward a little bit. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Hi there, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. This is Wealth Creator Radio. Imagine a life where you would wake up when you want, travel whenever you feel like it, and then savor every single day on your own terms. Well, Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial is here to help us see if this dream could come true for us. So I do want to start off by giving you our phone number as we get started today. You'll hear it a lot, and you'll want to use it. You can call or you can text the word VISIT to 800-454-1184. Okay, if you want to text, just text the word VISIT. That easy to get on our calendar. Another thing you can do is text the word Toolbox, and you can get the book that Eric wrote and a lot of other resources that can help you in retirement and help you answer some of your questions about retirement. So text the word Toolbox to 800-454-1184. And remember, our website is wealthcreatorradio.com. Okay, early retirement. What would be some steps that we could take to see if we are ready?
Well, I mean, the first one's really is you have to know, what is that spending level going to be? And the real number. Not the one that you say in your head, because everybody says they spend one number, and then I ask them to total your last 12 months bank statements, withdrawals, and divide it by 12. And once you do that, that number does not match what you said you spend. So that's an important one. Mm-hmm. And then, like you kind of mentioned there, if you've got 7 days a weekend, because you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, you might spend a little bit extra money, right? You might be doing all those bucket list items. I mean, that's the whole point of trying to retire early, is so that way you can go off and have some more fun. So if that's the case and you're going to do that, then, okay, how much are you going to be spending and what is that? And let's get that number and see if we can make that money last.
Yeah, so true. Make that money last. Now, obviously, we have our money. How important is it to diversify our income streams?
Yeah, so that's a huge one, right? Is how are you going to get this money back out, right? For 30, maybe 40 years, you've been putting it one direction, right? Going forward, just socking it away. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you're going the opposite direction, right? You're pulling it back out. And so that can't be stuff that you just sell every month, because the markets go up and down. So yeah, you need some steady income. You need some cash flow, some money that's paying in. And then you also need some money protected, because, those bad years happen, right? Those bad years, about every 3 out of 10 years in a decade, that's going to be a bad year. And on those bad years, well, we want to make sure you got places where you don't lock in those losses. So yeah, having it allocated to more of like what a pension manager or endowment manager would do, where they're trying to pay out money consistently versus just trying to have the money get bigger and bigger. So that's a big key.
Now, what about debt? What role does that play in our retirement?
Well, it makes it a lot harder to retire, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah. So, you don't necessarily have to be mortgage free, but again, it have to have enough income and cash flow to be able to pay that mortgage, right? So is that something you're going to be able to do? Are you going to downsize into a less expensive house and then be able to pay cash? Which way are you going to, go with all that? But obviously stuff like, credit cards and other stuff. Yeah. If you've got that, you should not be trying to retire at all. You should have that paid off way ahead of time. And car loans are a little bit different, because, you're not going to be retired for 30 years and only have one car. That'd be pretty amazing if you did. Buy the car would be pretty sad by the time the 30 years are up.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're going to have to also budget a little bit for some of that stuff that you have to replace. But yeah. I mean, you definitely need to be looking at that and making sure you don't have too much debt. And, I mean, mortgage is okay, but yeah, consumer
Right.
debt, no, you should not have any of that.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned mortgage debt. I think everybody wants to know if they should pay off their mortgage before they retire. So mortgage debt is okay. But my husband and I, we did move about in our 50s. We're 65 and 66. I'm older. But we did move. We downsized. And so we got out of our debt and we're trying to pay cash for everything. So we are trying to do that,
That's great.
get everything straight. Yeah. Now, I want to talk about health care because I think a lot of people think, "Ooh, what am I going to do when I retire about health care?" If you retire before Medicare age, that makes things a little more complicated, right?
Yeah, that's hands down the number one expense that is the hardest to overcome. I mean, it's not something you're going to avoid. It's just something that you're going to have to deal with. And
hmm
so most people, if they get in their benefits through work, they're actually not paying for their health insurance out of their gross paycheck. I mean, their net paycheck, right? They're paying out of the gross part. So they don't even think about it as a monthly expense. And then all of a sudden you find out it's, $1,000 per person until you get to that 65 number. And then maybe it's $300 or $400. That's a big cash flow item, right? I mean, if all of a sudden you're both under 65 and you're going from zero, of your take home pay to being 2,000 or more for health insurance. Yeah, that's something you got to plan for. You can do certain things to try to make your income look lower and maybe qualify for some of the government benefits. But if you're also going out and having fun and doing all this other stuff, it might not be feasible. So, that's one of those reasons why people really first and foremost need to have a personalized income plan, one that is geared for them to see and be able to see, okay, yeah, I need to do this. I need to, I can see where my money's lasting and it's going to last till I'm 95 or 100. Or you get that plan and it says you're going to last till 75 or 70. And it's like, ooh, okay, time to redo the plan. And
Yeah.
no, I should not be retiring now. I need to work longer. So yeah, so if you have that, it's simple to find out these answers to these questions. But without that, I don't know how you do it. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we can do here at Heckman Financial is actually help you design that. There's no cost, no obligation. And so, yeah, if you want to, reach out and find out a little bit more, the easiest way is you can either call us or text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184 or book directly online with the link below.
All right. And thank you for joining us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. And if you are just joining us, we're talking about ways to know if you are ready to retire. And we're talking retire early. So, Eric, how does someone know if they're emotionally or mentally prepared? Because when my husband and I think about it, if ever we're taking a break on a holiday or whatever, we're kind of like, I don't know if I could, what would I do all day? How do you help people?
Yeah, I mean, that is a tough one. Some people have a tougher time with it. Some people love it. It is a big shift. I think probably the best I ever had is one of my clients early on told me it felt like Wile E. Coyote when he runs off the cliff and he's running in midair before he falls down. And, you don't know exactly where you're going to land once you jump
Right.
off that work wagon, right? And or work cliff, I guess, in this case.
Whatever. Yeah.
And, and so, yeah, it's your identity. It's who you are. It's who a lot of people and hang out with and talk to, right? Or people or coworkers, right? So, so that is one thing you'll be giving up. But also, I mean, what other things are you involved in? Are you involved in lots of different groups and organizations and other things that, where you can go off and get real active? I've got some of my neighbors who've joined my Rotary Club now, and they're kind of doing it as a retirement kind of way to get more involved and do things. And so, there's lots of ways that you can give back to the community, just be out there, have fun, do things. So, now if you retire to just sitting on the couch at home all day, yeah, I don't think that'll be so good. So yeah, you have to retire to something, not just from something, but you have to retire to something, and you have to figure out where am I retiring to?
Right. And you said, you got to make sure your money lasts 30, 40 years real quick. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, with proper planning and the right allocation and having some protected assets and some stuff that's guaranteed that can't go away, there's lots of ways you can do it. So, the other thing we have, available for people is our toolbox that has literally a book that says a little quick read of will my money last as long as I do? And Social Security timing decision, and copy of my book Worry Less Wealth. So if you want to get access to all that, it's super simple. All you do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184, or download using the link below.
Would you rather pay more or less in taxes? If you want to pay more, don't do anything. If you want to pay less, talk to Eric Heckman to see what's possible for you. 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184.
Hi there, Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial, where their mission is to help you get to and through a worry-less wealth retirement. So you might think legacy planning is for people who have the big mansions, right? And maybe even bigger bank accounts. But you have to think again, because it's really about preparing for life's curveballs and protecting your loved ones, no matter what your bank account size is. So, Eric, let's go ahead and start with the basics. Tell us, why is estate planning so important for everyone, no matter what their financial situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's quite simple. You built up this stuff, and you want your stuff to go to somebody you like, right? So
Yeah. And no.
and no, more importantly, all right, yeah, and you don't want it to go to lawyers, court fees, and probate fees, other things, and you also don't want people to, I don't know what's the best way, but
Fight?
Well, no, one thing's fighting, over assets, but I was gonna say the other part would be to just not thinking ill of you afterwards, because they went through such a hellish time trying to get all this stuff done. Because I tell people, if things are in good order, it's a lot of work to settle somebody's estate. If things are in bad order, oh my gosh, it can be really a full-time job. So you do really want to make sure, not only things are easy to handle and take care of, reduce the stress down. But and then, like you said, also, not hopefully get into conflict over stuff.
Right. Yeah. And we've all heard those stories, and you've even shared some of those with us, as far as selling an estate. Tell us some of the most common problems that you have seen when a plan is outdated, or, like you said, just simply doesn't exist and makes it hard for everyone.
Yeah. Some stuff can be just, really bad stuff that could have been, simply fixed, which would be just things like beneficiary. We just had a client unfortunately pass away last year that, his ex-girlfriend, they weren't ever legally married or something, but, she was still beneficiary on one account. And
it was an ex.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Ex-girlfriend.
And they been, I think, separated for about 5 years.
Okay.
Another one was going to his mom, who's, still actually alive. So at least that part's positive, but she's in her, I think, 90s.
Wow.
So that'll probably just get resent to somebody else really quickly.
Yeah.
So, that wasn't the same as his other beneficiaries, or, some of these accounts. And, so some of that stuff is just, having the right beneficiaries, because that's a simple, easy one. That's just one stroke of a pen, or filling out something online lots of times and stuff. So that can be easy enough to do. And then, lots of times people just don't have stuff set up. So, they think they've got all these beneficiaries, and then, okay, you got a house. Well, do you have a trust? No. Well, then there's no beneficiary, which means you have to open probate, which means you have to go to court, and you have to pay lawyer fees and costs. And, I think it's usually around 1% to 2% typically right now is the cost of settling the estate. And that's the gross value of the house. That's not your equity in the house. So, which is even worse, right? Because you're paying a fee based on money, you might have to pay a loan off on. So, so it can get pretty ugly pretty fast if you don't have things set up.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Now, let's get into taxes, because, people always hear horror stories about the death tax, right? I'm like, how could we have even passed a law about a death tax? But anyway, how do tax strategies fit into this conversation?
Yeah, well, for most people nowadays, right now we're at 15 million per person, if you're a married couple. So most of us, unfortunately, aren't over that limit when we pass away. So most people aren't really paying much on estate or death tax type stuff. The amazing thing of the tax code is when somebody passes away, you get a step up in basis on all regular assets. So, somebody may have bought a house for 100 grand and it's worth 1.5 million now, and they pass away and no taxes due on that. Had they sold it, they may have paid 3, 4, 500,000 in tax. So a lot of taxes actually go away, except for retirement accounts, which of course for a lot of people are one of their biggest assets. And those retirement accounts now, if it goes that next generation down, it's 10 years. You got to take all that money out and pay all the tax. So that could be a pretty big hit in terms of taxes, because you got everything else tax free, but then all of a sudden you get all this taxable income on top of your normal income. So that's getting the highest marginal tax brackets possible, and there's no way to get around that. You just got to take it out within 10 years. So
Didn't used to be that way.
No,
It used to be your lifetime.
yeah, it used to be, really for most people, 20 to 35 years. And so, it's a lot faster, which means a lot higher tax hit. So that's another thing people need to be watching out for sure.
Right. So if anybody has questions about these, tax strategies that we're talking about, or even legacy planning, this is what you and your team focus on. I mean, it's a major part of your plan, your blueprint to worry less wealth.
Yeah.
So people can give you a call and set up an appointment and come in and see you and talk about everything from legacy planning to, just even, income and investing, tax strategies, even healthcare, right? It's a full plan.
Yeah, no, yeah. So certainly we go through the 5 areas, which are income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy. And you really have to have all the 5 of those areas dialed in to have a successful retirement and, successful passing, I guess, right? Make sure your legacy goes on to who you want it to go to. And so that's some of the things that we can help people with. And the easiest way for them to take advantage of that, you can do it on, we can do a phone, Zoom, in person, whatever. But easy way is just text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
And we thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. And, everything we're talking about here, it does seem so complex, right? And I think that's why a lot of people don't do anything, because it's just overwhelming. So tell us, Eric, how you and Team Heckman help your clients simplify all this and just get started. Someone calls us from radio or from watching us. How do you help people get started?
Yeah, well, like I said, the very first thing in the blueprint process is really to develop that income plan. Where's your money going to come from? Once you retire, for the rest of your life, with inflation, taxes, everything calculated in. And then, of course, you have to look at your investments. How are those, structured? Are those going to put off enough income? Are they, have they been kind of changed to produce more income? Because you need to be doing that. Do you have some of that money guaranteed and protected from loss? Because there's going to be those bad years. Always will be, right? And you got to be prepared for those in retirement. And then healthcare, pre-65, post-65. And then lastly, legacy. That's making sure everything's structured right. Those accounts are in the right names. Sometimes I run across people who've done the trust, but they didn't put any accounts in the trust. And so it's like, well, it's like a funnel with nothing going in it. It's not very useful. So that's where we help them do that too. We actually have a cool new software program, even with clients. If they want to do their, the trust on their own, they can even do that through us. So there's a lot of great ways to get it done. But yeah, it's just a matter of taking that time and getting the things done that you have to get done.
Right. Now, for someone, let's say, who already has a plan, but they're listening or watching us, maybe having questions, talk about the real value of getting a second opinion. You guys do that as well.
Yeah, well, lots of times, people are working with, I find, really investment managers and not really retirement planners. So they're doing maybe some of these big firms that like to go fishing. We'll just say it like that. Or some of these other companies out there. And, they're great on investment management, but they're not really focused on how to lower your lifetime taxes, how to make sure everything's structured for withdrawal. And that's the big difference when you retire. So you really need to have that all dialed in and ready to go. So yeah, that is our only focus, is really helping people make that shift into retirement. So again, if you want to set a time to talk with us, there's no cost, no obligation. All you got to do is text word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text word visit 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
Do you know whether your retirement plan has any weak points? Discover ways on giving your financial future the proper tune-up. Simply go online to wealthcreatortoolbox.com to gain a better understanding in taxes, Social Security, and other ways to manage your portfolio. That's wealthcreatortoolbox.com.
Welcome back. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. Eric has been helping retirees just like you have remarkable retirements. In fact, he's been doing this for the past 30 years. So if you have questions, he definitely has answers. I think Eric, you've seen everything, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're discussing legacy planning right now and ways to help you avoid some common mistakes that can be both costly in terms of money and then emotionally. So Eric, over these past 30 years, you have seen a lot of plans. Tell us what some of the most common blunders are that people make when it comes to planning their estate.
Well, probably the simplest thing is just nothing, right? If you don't do anything, that's a pretty bad blunder. Yes, retirement accounts, life insurance, annuities, those all have beneficiaries. So even if you've done nothing, hopefully you wrote something on those lines. But your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your house, all of that, who's going to get that, right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, my husband forgot to put me as a beneficiary on our bank accounts. Like he didn't have me on there and he realized that. And I'm like, we went to the bank and added me to him. But look, that's just things you don't think about.
Yeah. And there's a lot of issues there. And of course, sometimes people do get things done and they get a trust, which is great. And some attorneys are good about at least changing your house title in the trust. Some aren't, but most are. And then a lot of them do this obnoxious thing where they list out your assets and they say these things are in the trust. Well, they're not in the trust. I can't type up a piece of paper and have it signed and say that your Fidelity account's all of a sudden in my name, and nobody else can do that either. So, if you got an account at Fidelity, you got to go change it into the trust or your Schwab or, wherever it's at, right? I mean, just you saying it's in the trust, it is not in the trust. You actually have to have the account name in the trust. And I don't know why attorneys put that piece of paper in there because it's super dated, right? After 5 or 10 or 15 years, those companies may have merged, changed names, may have moved accounts, stuff like that. So, and then just checking on beneficiaries every so often. I mean, when TD got taken over by Schwab, there was a lot of beneficiary stuff that all of a sudden got dropped. I've seen that with 401ks where people stay at the same company, but their 401k provider changes and all of a sudden the 401k beneficiary went away. Just bad data entry, right? Or merging of data and stuff. So you want to check on that too. And, and of course you can't just depend on stuff that you did 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I don't know how many times I meet with somebody and their kids are in their 30s and they still have guardians named, right? Because it's like, okay, if you still have guardians listed and your kids in their 30s, time to update your info because that means you did it way over 10 years ago. So
exactly. That happened with my husband and I too. Same thing. Our kids were in our 30s and we're like, I don't think Aunt Patty's going to be taking care of my kids anymore. So we finally changed that. But I think we often think of legacy planning in terms of what happens after someone has passed. Okay. But Eric, tell us how proper planning can make a difference during a person's lifetime.
Yeah, well, I mean, lots of times people think, living trust is just for for when you're gone. But one of the biggest things is, if all of a sudden the Amazon van runs you over and you're in the hospital, and you're not able to, pay your bills and do stuff, who can legally go in your checking account and do that? Who can, if you're over 59 and a half, who can be taking money out of your IRAs for you? Or even worse, if you have required minimum distribution, who's allowed to take those out for you? And then on the medical side, who can, make medical decisions? Because sometimes people have the medical part done, but not the financial. And so, you need to have all those done. And so usually when you're working with an attorney or somebody, usually you're going to have those durable power of attorneys. You're going to have that, successor trustee, all those things set up. And I would probably say at any given time, we have at least 3 to 5 clients that are all power of attorneys for, usually for their parents or for a spouse. it's very, very common. So,
Right.
and it's easy to get when somebody's healthy. When somebody's not healthy, you're going to be paying a lot more because it's an emergency basis. And of course, the attorney's going to jack up the rates, and, you have court costs and other stuff because you have to go to court to get it and, instituted and all this stuff. So again, it's one of these things where it's a quick swipe of a pen early on and no problem. And it's a big problem if it's not done.
Exactly. So, Eric, let's talk about family dynamics. How can a well-structured plan help prevent, the conflict and the resentment that you've seen tear families apart?
Yeah, I mean, it can be kind of lots of crazy stuff. I mean, one I always like to point out is just the sentimental stuff. I've seen more crazy stuff about that. Somebody's painting or somebody's quilt or whatever. Just simply asking, "Hey, is there anything you want when I'm gone?" That's a simple thing, and then that would save a lot of stuff. Now, if three of your three kids all say the same thing, okay, well, then I don't know. Donate to Goodwill and don't let any of them get. No, I don't know.
I know.
But yeah, and then sometimes people do weird stuff where they'll say, okay, this person gets this house and this person gets this house and this person gets this cabin we have, but they're all different values. And so then it doesn't seem very equal, right? And then maybe one wants that one and one wants the other one. And so again, sometimes it's good to ask them about these things before you kind of impose that, or even worse, everybody gets a third and there's no provision for maybe the person who's living there. Like right now, I've got somebody was taking care of the mom. Mom passed away, and it's a family from India, and it was a male dominant system. So they left the house to the two brothers who have their own houses, and so the person who's lived there for taking care of mom and for years now has to go find a new place to live and doesn't have money for a house. And so,
oh my gosh,
so is that really in the best interest of everybody, right? And such.
Yeah.
So, do you have to get moved out right away, or what's the timeline and all those kind of things? So so you want to have all those things written down, but again, it all comes up with a plan. So, one of the things we built here at Heckman Financial is a digital online toolbox where people can get a lot of great, really quick reads. Things like Will My Money Last As Long As I Do, Social Security Timing Decision, a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time to talk with us. So all you got to do is text word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below.
Yeah. And then also remember, our show is available on podcasts. Okay. So every Tuesday it comes out on podcasts. So wherever you get your podcasts, even on YouTube, search for Wealth Creator Radio. Thank you for joining us. This is Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. And Eric, according to a recent survey, it showed that really only a small percentage of Americans actually have an estate plan. So in your experience, why? Why do so many people put it off?
Yeah, it's that whole mortality. Nobody likes to talk about when you're going to be gone, right? When you're going to die. And, I do find some weird times. I've had people where, like the spouse is flying internationally for business or something, and all of a sudden they want to get things done, or they want to review life insurance. That it is kind of funny when people all of a sudden freak out about something and then they care, or the flip side, they just had some people pass away and then they've heard bad stories. So now they find, but again, it shouldn't be that. Unfortunately, it should be, I should have this stuff done, right? It's kind of like brushing your teeth or going to the dentist or exercise, kind of some stuff where you should just do it. You don't have to do it all the time. Every 5 or 10 years is probably fine to update it. Obviously, if there's big life changes, people get married or other things, you might want to change stuff in there. And just getting it done is so critical because of, it's a mess if people don't have this ready and if people don't have it set up. And I've just had so many different things over the years. So, again, if you want to get a little bit more information, we've got some great downloads. Part of the book, Worry Less Wealth, goes into legacy in depth and the options there. So all you got to do to get access to that is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below. This is Eric Heckman. I'm excited to share a sneak peek of a movie I co-produced, The Psychology of Retirement.
Who are the baby boomers?
If I had to describe the baby boomer generation in one word, it would be independent.
To be honest, I have done zero preparations.
My number one fear about retirement is the future. 20 years from now. I just want enough money to be able to live.
The whole purpose of money is to give yourself a better life. Not just for your money to pay your bills, but to reduce an amount of anxiety and uncertainty that you have in your life so that you can actually enjoy these years that you probably spent decades building up for.
To get your free link to the movie, text the word movie to 800-454-1184. That's movie 800-454-1184.
Investment advisory and insurance services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., an SEC registered investment advisor. I want to give you a number that will kind of stop you in your tracks. The latest inflation report shows that consumer prices rose 4.2% over the past year in May. So that's highest annual rate that we have seen in 3 years. Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial is here with us today to tell us all about it. Now, I do want to tell you about a chance for you to reach out to Eric and our awesome team at Heckman Financial. If you've been shocked by inflation lately and you're maybe worried about what that could mean for your retirement, don't wait. Give Eric and our team a call. The number is 800-454-1184. Okay, you may call that number. You may text the word visit. The other thing you can do is text the word toolbox. You can get the kit that we call it. It's like a digital kit. It's his book that he has written, plus some other wonderful resources for you regarding your retirement. So excited to have you here with us today. Eric, good to be here with you.
Yeah, good to be here, Luann, and talking about how things got expensive, huh?
Yeah, kind of expensive for all of us. Now, before we do get into some of the specifics that I want to get into, what is it about inflation that makes it so dangerous for people who have a lot of retirement savings?
Yeah, it's a lot of times been called the stealth tax because you don't kind of see it there, but it kind of creeps up and all of a sudden, hey, this stuff's super expensive, right? And gas sometimes, as we know, just shoots up and it's pretty obvious in your face, but all of a sudden things get more and more expensive. I've got some stuff on auto ship on Amazon and it seems like every month it's like, oh, these things have gotten more expensive. This one's got more expensive. They send you those messages and it's like, all that stuff goes up. And, as things goes up, then that means, you're going to be spending more, right? It's not, that same dollar's not going to buy you quite as much as it used to.
Yeah, that's true. That's what inflation is. So here are the numbers to put this 4.2% rise into perspective. Prices climbed 0.5% in a single month. Much of that was from energy, and that jumped 3.9% for the month and 23.5% over the past year. Okay, so that's energy. And then all the basics that retirees cannot afford. Or sorry, I don't mean afford, but they can't afford them, but they can't avoid it. And that is gas, of course, food, electricity, and medical care. So those are clear pain points right now. And what can that kind of pressure mean for retirees, Eric?
One of the biggest numbers that you should always calculate is how much are you going to spend each month and on average in retirement. And so that's one of the big ones that we do right before people retire is really kind of dive deep in that and make sure it's a real number because people always tend to lie about that, not intentionally, but they just all think that they spend a lot less than they really do.
Yeah.
And, if you change that number a bunch, that really changes your plan way more than earnings, way more than a lot of other stuff can do. And so that's one of the problems there is if all of a sudden, inflation has driven up your costs that much, that fast. We typically use the historic inflation, average inflation, which is about 3.2. So when we're over that 3.2, then that means, they're going to be, the numbers are going to be going backward a little bit, right? They're going to be a little bit off. So anytime we're that high, it's pretty bad. And, of course, Trump bashed Biden about all the inflation stuff, and then he starts a war and causes it. So, I
know. Everybody's pointing fingers.
Yeah, right. And so this is going to take a long time to probably undo and get back to normal.
Yeah, and I've heard you talk about inflation, and you've said that it can affect taxes and even Medicare. Can you explain how that works, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, Medicare is definitely priced based on inflation, so that's part of the increases. Obviously, then when you're going to the doctor and they charge more, then that's more for prescriptions, maybe more for visits. Then also based on the tax brackets, inflation adjusts those, so that can affect if you have those IRMA charges, which is when you pay more than your normal premium for Medicare because you made over $218 right now for married and $109 for single. So yeah, all those things can definitely affect the Medicare, can affect your health care. And so, that's one of those things where, you can't get away from, in retirement, right? You're stuck with that. So you can try to go out less, drive less, but Medicare is not going to be the one that you're going to be able to avoid.
Right. So I want to talk about how inflation erodes purchasing power. Obviously, we hear people say that, but what does it really mean when they say that?
Well, I mean, it's just, you get the same dollar, right? You just take the same dollar out, but now, things are a little bit more, lunches, dinners are more, right? Food costs are more. And so, so you're just going to get a little bit less every time you're buying stuff or spend more, right? That's only two options, right? Either get less for your dollar or spend more dollars. And, so what that means is it will eat up your investments and your savings more. So it's one of these things that's always going to be there. I mean, it's just not going to ever go away. It's just naturally how things go. But, you do have to, watch out for it because there will be spikes. There will be times where it gets more expensive. And then you have to figure out, okay, how's this going to affect my overall plan? And I think one of the most scary things is if people don't have that income and spending plan, how do they know how things are affecting them? If you don't have one kind of source of truth that you can go back to and say, am I on track? Am I off track? It's pretty tough. And, there's all sorts of software out there that says, oh, this is the odds of success and your odds may go up and down. Well, who cares about the odds of success? I just want to make sure I am successful. I don't want to have a 10 or 20% chance of not making it. Yeah. I mean, that's like a pilot getting on and saying, you got a 10 or 20% chance of not landing. It's like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah, I want to get off right now.
Everybody's like, everybody's clasping their seats.
So the biggest thing to do there really is find out, do you have an income plan, income and spending plan? And if you don't, that's one of the things that you really should try to look into. And so we've set up, like you mentioned earlier, that digital toolbox. And it's got a thing that says, will your money last as long as you do? It's a quick read, a little booklet. We've got things that talk about, are you spending too much money in tax in retirement? Copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and a way to set a time with us at Team Heckman. So all you got to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or click the link below online.
We're so happy that you joined us today. This is Wealth Creator Radio. So happy that you're watching, listening, wherever you're picking us up. And hopefully you're getting a lot out of this. In case you are just joining us, we're talking about how inflation's triple threat is hitting retirement plans. And so, Eric, one of the most powerful tools for fighting inflation in retirement is Social Security. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, I don't know if it's the most powerful tool, but it is it is right now, at least currently, a source that everybody gets. And we're going to see in 2022, they're saying it's going to have a 22% pay cut unless they raise a lot of money really quickly.
You mean 2032?
I'm sorry, 2032. Yes, 2032, it'll be a 22% cut. So, flip the numbers there. But Social Security does have that cost of living adjustment. However, it's always a little delayed, right? So last year was 2.8, and we're talking about inflation over 4%, which means you're definitely behind. Now you might catch up next year, but then inflation might hopefully be calmed down a little bit, but we'll see. So it does help because at least it's not a flat earnings. At least it's going up a little bit, but you do have to watch it.
Okay. Some people might think that exposure to the stock market could help them fight inflation. So talk about that. Is it that simple?
Never that simple, but it does help. I mean, you don't want to have it all in the bank or just, treasury bills or something like that, because those are only going to pay inflation or less. So you do want something that's growing over time, but you also want to be smart about it. You want to have some stuff that's protected from drops in the market. There's a lot of great tools out there. It can earn up to 10% a year right now without risk. So yeah, it's more about finding out what's out there and what options you have. But the first step's really getting that digital toolbox. So all you have to do again is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. If you want access to all that great material, 800-454-1184, or click the link below if you're watching online.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi there. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and this part of our show I like to call Story Time with Eric, and this is when Eric gives us examples of challenges and risks that retirees face. And so, Eric, why don't you give us what we call a financial fail?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, this is probably a little bit more in general, not a specific case, but I think one of the biggest problems that people do is they think the economy they're in will be the economy that they will always be in retirement. I mean, I just recently had somebody who he was 78 and his wife's 73, and they're just now trying to figure out what to do for RMD planning because she's just hitting RMDs, and now they're realizing their taxes are going up. And, you know, you had a long time. I mean, he started his RMDs almost 8 years ago. They had a long time for her to figure out something, but they're just now trying to figure it out right before she turns 73. And it's like, you know, that's like telling a senior at graduation to start putting away for your college education. You know, it's like, you know, okay, but you know, and I see that in all sorts of stuff. You know, not a lot of people don't, you know, really wish they'd done more Roth, really wish they'd converted more, paid attention to it. I probably hear that. I'd almost say weekly nowadays, because people are just starting to see how nasty the taxes that they're going to pay in retirement. It's not going to be lower taxes, that's for sure. And, you know, so that's one of the big ones. And then also just, you know, thinking that you're going to be, you know, in a great market, right? And the market's going to always go up. And, you know, the scariest thing right now is, you know, we've had, you know, some pretty great increases in the market pretty consistently, but people are starting to forget, you know, the big, you know, like the 08 meltdown, the .com days. And, you know, those things will come back. And if those do come back, yeah, you can't have it all on just high tech because it's just going to get blown up because that's going to be probably the, you know, the next bubble is definitely going to be something related to AI. So, you know, so what do you do then? And so a lot of people, it's just more, they just don't have a plan. And so what they're doing is they're just kind of, you know, going out there and just doing it on their own. And then all of a sudden, like a lot of times they'll come to one of our live events and find out some great information, or they'll listen to the show and all of a sudden call up and go, oh my gosh, yeah, I never thought about that. And now I'm worried about it. And, you know, often it's later than ideal. We'll just say that.
Right.
I won't say it's too late, but sometimes it's really dang late, you know, and so there's less options that we have, but you know, there's always some options as long as you're, you know, reaching out and trying to find some stuff. But you know, and then the other one too is, you know, of course, especially in the Silicon Valley is overweighted one company's stock. And, you know, that one's can be really hazardous because it's one of these things where it works until it doesn't work. Right. And, you know, some of these company stocks, they, you know, shot up like great and it's wonderful. And then some, you know, they've dropped a whole bunch. And, you know, and that's the ones who drop a bunch you don't hear the stories about. So, so there are options. There are good, efficient tax ways to get out of some of those stocks now. There are a lot of creative ways to do it, and ones that you probably haven't heard of, but we're doing that with a lot of our clients. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.